The movie begins by showing us Sam, aimless 33-year-old man living in LA. After buying himself a milkshake, Sam heads home but is startled by a dead squirrel falling from a tree, its blood and guts splattered all over the ground. Being an avid conspiracy theorist, he thinks highly of the incident, and on his apartment door, he finds a note informing him that his rent was seriously overdue and that he only has 5 days to pay or be evicted. While Sam sits on his porch and smokes, he sees his hippie old next-door neighbor half naked, tending to her birds. He gets his binoculars to get a better look, but is interrupted by a phone call from his mom. After a brief conversation, Sam tells his mom that he has to go back to work and hangs up. Suddenly, he's distracted by a young new neighbor who was lounging by the pool, wearing only her bikini. As he stares at the new girl, he hears a loud knock on his door and he hurries to open it. Outside, bringing him lunch was his on-again, off-again partner, who also happens to be an actress. And after a brief, exciting adult session, Sam heads to the library where he finds a mysterious comic book and asks the librarian whether he knew the writer. The librarian confirms that he does so, and Sam asks him to pass his number off to the writer, telling him that he was a fan. On his way home, he encounters his pretty neighbor's dog, Coca-Cola, and he starts petting it. Sarah comes out of her house, finding Sam with her tiny dog, and she introduces herself and then invites him inside for a drink. She jokingly confronts Sam of spying on her earlier, which he shyly admits to. She then offers that they get high, and Sam was all too happy to participate. After they get high, they lay down on the bed and they start watching an old TV show, and they begin to kiss, and Sarah's 2 roommates interrupt, and Sarah suggests that Sam come back the next day. When they stand outside Sarah's apartment, fireworks erupt nearby, catching their attention. Sam comments that it seems unusual to have fireworks so late in the summer, and Sarah, momentarily captivated by the spectacle, appears lost in thought before bidding Sam a very awkward goodbye. The next morning, Sam is awakened by a horrifying nightmare. He then heads down to Sarah's apartment and discovers that she and her 2 roommates had moved out in the middle of the night. He speaks to the landlord, who confirms that the girls had paid their lease, forfeited their deposits, and left. Later, Sam meets his friend at a bar, who tells him about the recent scourge that was now being known as the Dog Killer. Back at his apartment compound, Sam breaks into the house that used to be Sarah's and tries to find clues about her sudden disappearance. He finds a small box with what he assumes were hers, but is interrupted by a random girl who takes the box after he returned it and hid. He follows the girl and watches as she's picked up by 2 of her friends, so he decides to follow them, and the girls drive down to the lake and rent a paddle boat and use it to get across and pass the box of items to a man wearing an eye patch. Sam recognizes him as the guy he had seen at Sarah's house with her roommates. He then follows the same girls to a strange party on the rooftop, and he intercepts one of the girls in the bathroom and asks her if she knew where Sarah was by showing her a Polaroid picture, but the girl kicks him in the genitals and leaves. When he recovers enough to head out of the bathroom, he finds out that the girls had already left. On his way home, Sam gets a call from his favorite writer, letting him know that he can now come over the following day so they can discuss his comic book further. In his home, Sam sees a news report detailing the discovery of billionaire Jefferson Sevens, who was burned to death in a car with 3 women. Sam recognizes Sarah's hat at the scene and a small dog similar to hers found dead. The next morning, he wakes up to the police putting up yellow tape across Sarah's old house, telling him that it was now a crime scene. He goes out for a walk and is surprised to see girls that look like models going to the garage of some chubby middle-aged man for an audition. Sam then finds out that his car is being towed because he's unable to make the payments, and upset by the incident, he decides to head to the comic fan's writer's house. The man lets him in and offers him a drink, and Sam then draws the man the symbol that he'd seen painted at Sarah's house. The writer tells him that it was a hobo code that meant stay quiet. The writer explains that there have been a series of disappearances of dogs and people alike of the past 2 years, and assures him that something big must be going down. He then continues to explain different conspiracy theories using a dollar bill and other magazines to prove his point. The writer then takes Sam down to his secret lair, where he shows him his cereal box with a children's map drawn on the back, and he assures him that the map would lead him to what he was searching for his whole life. Wait, hold on. Did you subscribe to our channel? Come on guys, you're here, you're watching the video. Help us out by hitting the subscribe button, as it really helps out me and my team to make more videos for you guys. And now, let's get back to the recap. After the strange conversation with the comic writer, Sam goes to meet his friend, who shows him his new drone and how they can use it to spy on all the hot girls in LA. As they watch the computer, they notice a beautiful woman remove her shirt and then starts crying, and weirded out by what he saw, Sam decides to leave and heads out to the cemetery where dozens of people had gathered to watch a movie on a projector. He notices two of the girls standing aside as the woman acting in the movie and compliments them, and he then watches as they run and enter a limousine which is closed by the same eye-patched man from earlier. Believing that was strange, Sam heads to a party where he'd been invited the night before and meets the balloon girl. He shows her Sarah's party and asks her if she knows her, and the balloon girl admits that she'd seen her around, but they weren't actually close friends. Suddenly, Sam sees the girl who attacked him the night before and follows her out to the cemetery, and while he runs, he starts feeling dizzy and realizes the cookie he had at the party had a lot of drugs in him. He then collapses on the grass and passes out. Sam wakes up where he lay the night before to a call from his mom, and after a brief conversation, he heads home and tries to uncover the secret message that he kept hearing is hidden in the song of the band Jesus and the Brides. When he was unable to get anywhere with his search, he decides to call an escort service after seeing the girl from the night before on the ad. When she arrives, the two talk and he asks her questions about the eye patch man and Sarah, and she explains that she doesn't know the man, but she's seen Sarah at a party a couple of weeks ago. She goes on to tell him that she'd been taken there as a date for some rude producer. Once they got through the gates, they are left to roam free in the luxury neighborhood, except for one large stone mansion. The next day, while he's playing his guitar on the porch and lounging, he is hit with the sudden realization of how to break the code inside the song. After hours of trial and error, Sam breaks the code, which gives him the phrase, "Rub Dean's head and wait under Newton." Realizing the phrase was talking about James Dean's statue head, he travels across town to find it. When he gets there, he starts rubbing Dean's head and waits under Newton's statue, and after waiting for a while, Sam is approached by a homeless man wearing a crown and is given a blindfold. The homeless man tells him to wear it over his eyes so he can take him to where he needs to go. Confused, Sam asks who the man was and is told that he was the homeless king. Sam is then blindfolded and led by the homeless king, and when he is finally allowed to take the blindfold off, he finds himself in a man-made cave. The homeless king tells him to continue forward and then leaves him after closing the heavy iron doors behind him. As he looks around the cave and sees all the furnished items, he realizes that it was some kind of bomb shelter. After leaving the cafe through what seemed to be a ventilation shaft, he comes out of the back room of the supermarket. He heads back to the comic writer's house, but finds police officers putting yellow tape around it. And when he asks them what happened, they inform him that the writer offed himself. Sam waits for the officers to leave the area and then sneaks into the writer's house through the window. He finds the man's bed drenched with blood, which he finds very unnerving. He then goes through the surveillance cameras and realizes that the man had been murdered by a Millicent Sevens, a naked woman wearing an owl's mask. Thinking that he needs to get to the bottom of this, Sam heads to a garden party hosted by the singer of the band, Jesus and His Brides, and threatens him into telling him what the codes in his song meant. Jesus reveals that his hit songs weren't actually written by him, but instead provided by the record. Realizing who the songwriter might be, Sam finds the escort girl in the party and asks her to take him to the gated community where the party she had once gone to was hosted. The girl agrees and takes him along with two of her friends, and Sam climbs the wall of the gated community and makes his way to the giant mansion on top of the hill. Inside, Sam finds an elderly gray-haired man playing the piano and confronts him about everything that he had found. The old man reveals that people in Hollywood have been hiding subliminal messages in a lot of music and movies throughout the generations. The man reveals that all the great hits through time have actually been written by him instead of great musicians that they're credited to. Sam is shocked by this revelation and tells the man that he doesn't believe any word that he's saying, and laughing sarcastically, the old man tells Sam the real messages was not actually meant for him, explaining that he was always been the voice of his generation and the one before. The man assures him that all the art and culture was just other men's ambitions. Sam angrily asks him who was paying him to write the songs, but the man tries to shoot him. Sam closely escapes the gunshot by hiding behind the instruments and then bashes the old man's skull with a bass guitar. After returning home, Sam becomes increasingly suspicious and barely sleeps. He hears a knock on the door and finds his landlord as well as the police officer, who inform him that he needs to vacate the premises immediately due to his overdue rent. The police officer sympathizes with Sam and gives him one more day to pay his rent. That night, Sam accidentally stumbles upon a clue in a cereal box that he had taken from the dead comic book's writer's house, and eventually finds his way to an off-grid location where a man and 3 women live in a small hut. While being held at gunpoint by Sam, the man is forced to reveal that rich individuals like him have historically confined themselves in underground tombs similar to Egyptian pharaohs, with the intention of allowing their souls to ascend to an unfamiliar realm accompanied by 3 wives. The man also reveals that Sarah and her roommates were Jefferson's wives and that their deaths were faked. Their tomb had already been sealed, but they can still be contacted through video call. Sam speaks with Sarah, who confirms that she entered the tomb willingly and that there was no turning back. Sam and Sarah share a sweet goodbye before the call disconnects forever, and the man offers Sam tea, which he drinks, unaware that it was drugged. When he awakens, he realizes that he'd been taken prisoner by the homeless king. Upon discovering that the wealthy man and his 3 wives have all been imprisoned in separate tombs, Sam eventually manages to persuade the homeless king to release him. After returning home, a distressed Sam decides to spend the night with the crazy bird lady that lives next door, and from across the building, he watches as his landlord and the police officer enter his house to evict him, but find the symbol for "Stay Quiet" painted on the wall. And that is how the movie wraps up. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Make sure to leave me a like, leave a comment, also subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!